Hey there, I am Jesse Dollemore, and this is The Conversation. Well, I'd planned on talking about how Donald Trump says he's the most militaristic person ever, all while being a 5-time draft-dodging coward. I'm going to have to put that off until next time, though. Instead, the conversation I want to have with you is concerning what I believe to be an alarming and dangerous problem that has crept into the mainstream of the party of Abraham Lincoln, the Republican Party. This problem isn't just one for the party itself. It's a problem for the entire nation. The danger I'm talking about isn't merely a subtle, shadowy hostility toward those who aren't white Christians. It's an open embracing of hateful bigots and the groups into which they've formed. Listen, if there were just one or two isolated coincidences related to this racist thread running through the establishment of today's Republican Party, I think I'd be prone to just dismissing them as just that, just coincidences. The problem for me is when there are just too many glaring road signs pointing me like a map toward the conclusion of more than just a cozy relationship between the Republican Party and racist individuals and groups. One or two can be dismissed, but when they start piling up into many, it's impossible to explain away. Let's go through just a few one by one. In previous videos, I've talked about William Daniel Johnson, who is a racist white nationalist. For those of you who don't know what a white nationalist is, it's a belief system wherein America should be defined as a white country, where the superiority and supremacy of the white race should not only be promulgated, but protected. Don't just take my word for it that he has some problematic views on race, though. Let's take a look at his own words. The following is a pro-Donald Trump robocall paid for and read by William Daniel Johnson.
The American National Super PAC makes this call to support Donald Trump. I am William Johnson, a farmer and white nationalist. The white race is dying out in America and Europe because we are afraid to be called racist. This is our mindset. It's okay that our government destroys our children's future, but don't call me racist. I'm afraid to be called racist. It's okay to give away our country through immigration, but don't call me racist. It's okay that few schools anymore have beautiful white children as a majority, but don't call me racist. Gradual genocide against the white race is okay, but don't call me racist. I'm afraid to be called racist. Donald Trump is not a racist, but Donald Trump is not afraid. Don't vote for a Cuban, vote for Donald Trump. 213-718-3908. This call is not authorized by Donald Trump.
Not only did he pay for these hateful-ass racist robocalls in support of the now Republican Party's chosen nominee for the presidency of this great nation, he registered a new political action committee with the Federal Election Commission called the American National Super PAC to raise money, soft money, for the Donald Trump campaign. Yeah, the same Donald Trump who was self-funding his campaign.
I'm self-funding.
Well, all of that support and effort on the part of William Daniel Johnson was rewarded by him being named as a California delegate by Donald Trump. Ultimately, he ended up being removed as a delegate, but it wasn't until reporters noticed that his delegate status was active and started asking questions. Is it a coincidence that he was removed after the press noticed? Come on. Next up, some of you may remember when David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, voiced his support for Donald Trump, his views, and his candidacy.
Even the leftist Democrats know that changing the demographics of America ensure more of a cultural Marxist future. We are in the most critical election probably in our history, and Donald Trump is the guy that really stands up on this particular issue.
As in previous videos, I want to, as a point of clarity, make certain you know what his previous position was within the KKK. He wasn't this kind of wizard. Or this kind of wizard. He was most assuredly this kind of wizard. You know, As old an organization as the KKK is, you'd think they would have come up with some less clownish costumes by this point. All right. Well, as we all know, a candidate doesn't really have much control over which kinds of maniacs endorse or proclaim their support for him. The problem comes when they are directly questioned about that support and refuse to denounce the support and repudiate the bigotry and hate of those particular lunatics and fringe groups.
I want to ask you about the Anti-Defamation League, which this week called on you to publicly condemn unequivocally the racism of former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage. Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
But I guess the question from the Anti-Defamation League is, even if you don't know about their endorsement, there are these groups and individuals endorsing you. Would you just say unequivocally you condemn them and you don't want their support?
Well, I have to look at the group. I mean, I don't know what group you're talking about. You wouldn't want me to condemn a group that I know nothing about. I'd have to look. If you would send me a list of the groups, I will do research on them, and certainly I would disavow if I thought there was something wrong. But you may have groups in there that are totally fine, and it would be very unfair. So give me a list of the groups, and I'll let you know.
Okay. I mean, I'm just talking about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan here, but...
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him.
I just don't know anything about them. Which is it, Republican Party? Is Donald Trump woefully unintelligent or just so comfortable with the support of racists and peddlers of hate that he won't disavow them? This is the Republican nominee, folks. The Republican Party has spoken and chosen overwhelmingly Donald J. Trump. This is a problem. It's not all Donald Trump, though. There are some well-known and respected names in the party of Abraham Lincoln who've said some troubling things and make my heart hurt for what used to be a respectable alternative to the Democratic Party. Steve King. He's a Republican from Iowa who appeared on MSNBC, and in response to another guest saying that there were a lot of angry white people on the floor of the GOP convention, he said this.
That's what's going to happen. This whole white people business, though, does get a little tired, Charlie. I mean, I'd ask you to go back through history and figure out where are these contributions that have been made by these other categories of people that you're talking about. Where did any other subgroup of people contribute more to civilization?
Than white people?
Than Western civilization itself, that's rooted in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and the United States of America, and every place where the footprint of Christianity settled the world. That's all of Western civilization.
Did you catch that? Where did any other subgroup of people, and he means other than white people, contribute more to civilization? And then he goes on to throw in Christianity to his goofy witch's brew of xenophobic freakiness.
Real freaking naughty.
Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Steve King thinks that Jesus was a blue-eyed white dude who spoke English. Well, I got news for you, Congressman King. Jesus was a Jew who was being oppressed and ultimately killed by Western civilization. So, it also needs to be mentioned that Steve King isn't an outlier in his political party. He's a member of some of the most powerful committees in Congress, including Appropriations, Judiciary, Commerce, and Business and Labor. He's a big deal. It makes you think, what kind of decision-making is he utilizing when voting in committee or on the floor of the House of Representatives? Well, let me clue you in. It's bad decision-making. There's also this guy, Congressman Sean Duffy, who recently explained how white males like me have been left beside a little bit in the politics of who speaks to them.
And this might be inappropriate to say, but there's a viewpoint that says I can fight for minorities and I can fight for women, and if you get that, you make up a vast majority of the voting bloc and you win. And white males have been left beside a little bit in the politics of who speaks to them.
Yeah. You're right, Sean. The past 7 years of having a black president has all but erased the politics of white men being spoken to and represented. I mean, if we take a look at the 43 previous presidents to Obama, I can see why you'd think that the white male isn't spoken to by the system. It's a good idea, though. In fact, let's take a moment to review the previous 43 presidents and try to put our finger on what 2 things they all shared in common. Did you catch the 2 things? A lot of white and a lot of dudes. Then there was this recently. Actor and former elected Republican politician Clint Eastwood recently did an interview with Esquire magazine in which he said, quote, "We're really in a pussy generation. Everybody's walking on eggshells. We see people accusing people of being racist and all kinds of stuff. When I grew up, those things weren't called racist." Yeah, you know, the old cranky bastard from Gran Torino, he's not alone. A recent YouGov poll revealed that almost half of white Americans say that life was better for people like them in the 50s and 60s than it is today. Let's see if we can translate that and put it in a context of what it means using Clint Eastwood's words. When I grew up, those things weren't called racist. No, that wasn't called racist. It was called the way things were. That absolutely wasn't called racist. That was an orderly America. It wasn't called racist. It was called separate but equal. Come on now. That wasn't called racist. That was called law and order.
I am the law and order candidate.
What happened to the Republican Party? It's really, truly sad. Oh yeah, one more thing. What the hell is this? Laura Ingraham finishing her speech at the GOP convention with what can only be described as a Nazi salute to her new authoritarian Führer, Donald Trump. This is one of those things I mentioned earlier. Is this Laura Ingraham? Is she a racist Nazi sympathizer? I doubt it. Maybe she's a prankster. Maybe it's just an unfortunate coincidence that just so happens to bolster each of the previous points made here. Any way you shake it, it stinks. Anyway, what do you think? Let's move this conversation forward in the comments below, or by sharing this video with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, or even writing the link to it on a bathroom stall. I'm Jesse Dollemore, and this has been The Conversation. See you next time. Hey, if you're really a glutton for punishment and you want some more of this, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks a lot.